Jello Beats, holla at me.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel and another video. So today I'm actually going to answer a question. So it's a question I got through Instagram direct message, and I thought there was just a very simple but a very good question, because I think this can apply to a lot of people and can make sense when explained in this way. So the question quite simply was, how do you determine when you finish a diet, finish a cut or a dieting phase and transition into a lean gaining phase, or a gaining phase, a massing phase, whatever you want to call it? I think this is a great question because a lot of the time people don't actually have a set goal in place for a dieting phase. And I think that this question shines a light on why it's important to potentially set goals and have an end point. Because a lot of the time when you do finish these diets, you won't really know when to stop. It's like, I'm going to diet because I want to diet and I want to be a bit leaner. When do I stop? Really good question. I don't know. So I think the best way to approach any dieting phase is to realistically set a goal, set a timeline. So be that a holiday, a photo shoot, contest prep, a wedding, those general things. Or of course, on the other end of the scale, you've got smaller diets, like a mini cut. And I think that doing so allows you to both work hard towards that goal in the time period, have a constraint on it, make it specific, work towards that time period, and when the time period is up, you are done and you transition into a lean gaining phase. With a mini cut, you come back to a point where you are in a good position to get lean gaining again, which is usually, for most, it is such a hard generalistic thing to say without having pictures, because people's body fat distribution is widely different. But I'd say, having abs on a guy and with a female being around about 10 pounds above your lean photo shoot or stage weight would be a good point to take a mini cut back to and then go gaining again. So once you've hit those points with a mini cut, you can realistically rationalize getting into a gaining phase again. But when you just say, I'm just going to diet because I want to diet, you will eventually hit the point where you don't know what to do. And this breeds an environment of confusion and weirdness about the way that you're eating and what you're doing and how you raise your calories coming out of this phase. And overall, that's not enjoyable, right? So I think, like I said at the start, set a goal. So be whatever the goal is, set it. And for some, like even clients that I coach, they say, I just want to get leaner. And I'm like, why? Like, why do you want to get leaner? If the ultimate goal for you, and you're watching this, most likely is because my general crowd of followers tend to want to build as much muscle as possible, get as jacked and as tan and as shredded as possible over the course of their lifting careers. So if that is truly your goal, you should question the long-term benefits of being in a dieting phase. Are we building muscle in a dieting phase? The generalistic answer to that is no, or at least not optimally. So how long do we want to spend in these phases? As little as possible. And we want to maximize the time that we can spend eating enough to suffice for growth and suffice for amazing sessions, great training performance and progression across the board. We want to maximize that time and minimize the time that we're spending in a caloric deficit. If you could draw a graph or look at a timeline of the amount of time that you spend in a deficit, as a young guy or a young girl, like, I think the amount of time that you spend in a surplus should heavily outweigh the deficit. I think that that would be an optimal environment for you to be in when you're young and you're growing. However, you will spend time in dieting phases, and that's just understandable. You just will. But when the time comes that you've reached the end point, you've set this goal of either doing a photo shoot, a contest prep, or just a cleanup, you go back and you get out the dieting phase and you get back to gaining, because that's the long-term goal, guys. That's what we need to pay attention to, is what is the long-term goal? And most of the time, for most of you, it is maximum muscle mass. Like, you just don't want to diet down, and especially this is one scenario where you really need to start investing a little bit more, is when you diet down and you're not happy. You're really not happy with what's underneath. You get the layers off and you're like, damn, like, it's just not what I expected to see. It's like putting in a lovely, lovely chocolate cake, and you make it so well, the sponge is perfect, the mix is amazing, you know, it's just all baked, prepared perfectly together. You put it in the oven and fuck. 10 minutes in, you bring it out of the oven and it's crumbled, it's gone to shit. And you bring it out and you realise you put way too much fucking baking powder in, it's exploded everywhere, the oven's a mess, and you spend the rest of the day tidying up the oven with no chocolate cake. It's kind of like that. You need to start again. You need to get into a gaining phase if that happens with your cake. If you're not happy with or you're not content with the improvements or the amount of muscle mass that you have underneath, get back and start baking that cake again. So guys, the take home from the video is, when you do get into fat loss phases, please do it for a reason. Please have some element of a goal or a time constraint on, or at least an element of, this is the goal, it's going to take this long roughly to achieve it, and then afterwards I'm doing this. Plan as much as you can. Obviously, I love planning, and I also love not planning, because I've talked about that in videos before. But I think with the fat loss phase, it pays relevance to plan as much as you can. And then once you get out of it, you've got a plan also. You've got a plan to invest and bake the cake again. So guys, hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you took home something from it and learnt a little as to my thoughts on what you should do or when you should end your diet and how to transfer into a gaining phase. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me today. I've got a push session later and looking forward to that. Feeling a little bit draggy today, I must admit, but other than that, I'm all good, and we will speak soon. Cheers, guys.